Hard to believe we're coming to the end of this study. I hope it's been a rewarding one for you and the folks in your group. And thank you again for the study leave last year. When I was at the seminary, I had sabbaticals when I undertook various writing projects. So believe me, without a study leave, I could not have written this book. As we look at the final chapter, you may recall that the double love command, love of God and neighbor, almost didn't get included. That's because it doesn't come early in any of the Gospels or show up all that much, especially compared to all Jesus' teachings on Sabbath, which was what I was going to include. But long before I started writing this book, I taught a class on the premise of it, and a member of our church, Charmin, proposed the love command. She was right, and that is the last chapter of the book. As for my take on it, and something your group might address, to me, loving God is such an abstract concept. I really don't know what that means. Not exactly, anyway. I know what loving my family means. I know what loving neighbor means. But God, I can't quite wrap my mind around it. But I wonder if the way we love God is by loving neighbor. And neighbor, of course, is more than the person next door that you enjoy visiting with or having over when smoking ribs and drinking a beer in the summer. One way to read the Gospels on this would be to imagine the person you least could imagine helping. If it doesn't come easy, you're probably on the right target. That's something for you and your group to discuss. When it comes to the conclusion, I rewrote it several times. Summarizing the chapters at the beginning was easy enough, but deciding what else to say at the end was challenging. I eventually named two things that for me capture the essence of this writing project. In other words, if I had coffee with Jesus once a week for several months, these two aspects would be my takeaway, both good Jewish teachings, since Jesus was a Jew after all. Number one, we're called to repair the world. And number two, we're made to enjoy the things of this world. And that's not a contradiction. Repairing the world is a vitally important part of Jewish teaching, having everything to do with social justice, the stuff covered throughout the book: poverty, hunger, disease, etc. As for enjoying the things of this world, Jewish thought promotes enjoying now the things of the next life when we'll feast with God. Doing both of these involves living in a bind, seeing as how there are wonderful things to enjoy and yet so much suffering. One image I didn't include that comes to mind now is the Monday nights my wife and I have served meals to the poor at Micah, then went with friends from church to El Patron for enchiladas and margaritas. To give yourself fully to both is key. Something to think about. In terms of questions you might consider, here are a few ideas. Number one, what does loving God look like to you? Number two, what does loving neighbor conjure up in your mind? Do you see a particular face? And number three, of the 7 first words we've covered, which one sticks with you and why? One more thing. If at any point your group gets stuck on what to discuss, I would suggest rereading the last 2 pages. That story about Mary Cartledge Hayes and her husband's dying. I found her description of the holiness of all of life absolutely gorgeous. So enjoy your time together.